Why are backyard chicken keepers still lugging $25 feed bags home every week when a single living plant can deliver 24% protein and sustain hens for decades? The egg industry says grain is essential, yet every month the average homesteader loses money and their birds get fatter, not healthier. There was a time before the industrial feed giants when a chicken's diet produced eggs so rich in brain-boosting nutrients that modern store-bought eggs cannot compare. So what changed? To escape the subscription model trap and rediscover what the industry once forgotten, we have to start at the ledger and then at a chicken's own anatomy. A backyard ledger tells the story faster than any marketing campaign. 6 hens, a modest flock, each laying about 25 eggs a month. At today's prices, that is 150 eggs, roughly $5 a dozen if you try to sell or replace them. So $62 worth of eggs in a good month. But the feed bill. That 50-pound sack of layer ration at the farm store runs $25. With 6 hens, it lasts about 7 weeks. Call it $15 a month, bare minimum. Add oyster shell, grit, and the odd vitamin pack, and the number creeps higher. Now factor in the cost of bedding, water, time spent hauling, cleaning, and the gas to get to the feed store. The math isn't just tight, it is upside down. For every $15 you put in, you get maybe $10 back in eggs if you're lucky. The rest goes to the feed company, not your table. And that is before you count the labor. Commercial feed companies know this arithmetic well. Their business depends on it. The more you rely on their bags, the more you become a customer, not a producer. Corn and soy dominate the ingredient list not because they are the best for chickens, but because they are the cheapest for manufacturers. 70% of U.S. chicken feed is built on those 2 grains. They are cheap, easy to ship, and easy to store. But they are not what chickens ate for most of history. Before the 1950s, a flock could get half its calories from greens, insects, and kitchen scraps. USDA bulletins from the 1940s described hens scratching through grass, leaves, and compost piles, picking up what their bodies needed. The shift to grain was not about what was best for the bird. It was about what was best for the bottom line. Today, the average backyard keeper is caught in a subscription model. Every month, the feed bill comes due, and the cycle repeats. The promise of self-sufficiency gets buried under a mound of receipts. The ledger does not lie. The system is designed to keep you buying, not growing. To break the cycle, you have to question what goes into the bag and what a chicken is truly built to eat. A chicken's body is not a grain mill. It is a living, breathing throwback to the age of dinosaurs. A monogastric omnivore, not a ruminant. The digestive tract starts with the crop, a simple pouch for holding whatever the bird finds: seeds, bugs, bits of green. Next comes the proventriculus, where enzymes begin to break down protein. Then the gizzard, a muscular grinder filled with grit, shreds and pulverizes tough plant matter. But there is a hard limit. Hens can only process about 5% indigestible fiber. Any more, and the nutrients pass through unused. What matters most is protein. Laying hens need 16 to 20% protein in their diet to build strong eggs, healthy feathers, and muscle. Grain-based feeds, corn and soy, deliver calories but fall short on essential amino acids, especially methionine, and are loaded with energy the birds do not need. The result is fat hens, weak shells, and sluggish production. It is a mismatch between what the bird evolved to eat and what the bag provides. Chickens are built to scavenge. In the wild, they scratch through leaves and soil for insects, seeds, and tender shoots. Their gizzard is perfectly designed to grind up select green foliage, especially high-protein leaves from certain perennial plants. Studies show hens can digest 60 to 80% of the protein in leafy legumes if it makes up less than a third of their total intake. That is why for most of history, flocks thrived on a mix of green forage and animal scraps, not just piles of grain. Dr. R. Paul Barta, a poultry pathologist, says chickens evolved as scavengers, and grains overload energy without methionine or minerals. The modern feed bag, heavy on starch and fiber, is a shortcut for the supplier, not the bird. True health and productivity come from matching the diet to the digestive system. Lean protein, low fiber, and the right blend of minerals. So if the goal is to break free from the subscription model, the answer starts with biology. The right kind of green matter, high in protein and low in fiber, can replace much of what is in the bag. The search now turns to plants that deliver this profile, leaf for leaf, year after year. Tagasaste, known as tree lucerne, offers a blueprint for true independence from the feed store. This perennial shrub, native to the Canary Islands, stands out for its ability to deliver high-quality protein where annual crops fall short. Planted once, a single sapling can reach 10 feet in its first 3 years, eventually topping out near 15 feet without irrigation or fertilizer. After establishment, its roots partner with soil bacteria to fix atmospheric nitrogen, quietly fertilizing the ground for decades. The leaves are where the real magic lies. On a dry matter basis, Tagasaste leaves contain between 20 and 24% crude protein, matching or exceeding the numbers found in commercial soybean meal. In side-by-side tests, a mature plant can yield up to 50 kilograms of edible foliage per year, enough to supplement a flock of 10 to 20 hens. Unlike annual grains, which demand tilling, sowing, and replanting, Tagasaste thrives with a single planting and simple maintenance. The method is straightforward. Once the shrub reaches about 6 feet tall, usually by the end of its first year, it is ready for its first coppice. Cut the main stems back to 2 feet above ground. Within months, the plant responds with a flush of new shoots, each packed with tender, protein-rich leaves. This cycle can be repeated twice a year, every year, for up to 30 seasons. No synthetic fertilizer, no irrigation, no fossil fuel inputs. Martin Crawford of the Agroforestry Research Trust calls Tagasaste the perennial answer to soy. And the numbers back him up. In Australia and New Zealand, flocks fed with Tagasaste leaves maintain steady egg production and robust health even through dry summers. The system is scalable too. A single row along a fence line can feed a backyard flock, while a small grove can support a serious homestead. But protein is only part of the story. For eggshell strength and hen vitality, chickens need minerals that Tagasaste cannot supply alone. That gap leads to the next layer in the perennial feeding guild, a plant that mines the deep soil for calcium, potassium, and magnesium, setting the stage for a complete, self-sustaining feed system. Comfrey, especially the Bocking 14 variety, stands out as a living mineral pump for the backyard flock. Its roots dig 10 feet into the soil, reaching layers untouched by shallow annuals. Every leaf it sends up is loaded with calcium, potassium, and magnesium, minerals that are essential for strong eggshells and healthy birds. Unlike common comfrey, Bocking 14 is a sterile hybrid bred to stay put and not spread by seed. That makes it a safe, controlled addition to any poultry yard. A single comfrey patch can be cut 5 or 6 times a season. The leaves are best when wilted for a day. Wilting softens the fibers and makes them irresistible to chickens. Toss a bundle into the run, and the birds will strip it down to the veins, taking in minerals that commercial feeds try to replicate with synthetic powders. The calcium content in these leaves can reach up to 5% of dry weight, potassium up to 6%, and magnesium close to 1%. That is more than enough to replace the layer booster packets and oyster shell supplements that usually come with a price tag. But even with protein and minerals covered, there is a missing piece: methionine. This amino acid is vital for feather growth, egg production, and immune health. Plants, even the best ones, cannot supply enough. That is where the black soldier fly larvae bucket comes in. A simple, hands-off solution. Drill a few holes in a 5-gallon bucket, add kitchen scraps, and let nature do the rest. The flies arrive on their own, lay eggs, and within days, the bucket is crawling with larvae. As they mature, the larvae climb out through the holes and drop straight into the chicken yard. Each is a protein and fat capsule packed with 4 to 6 grams of methionine per 100 grams of protein, matching or beating fish meal and far above any plant source. With Comfrey mining minerals from deep underground and the larvae bucket closing the amino acid gap, the flock's nutrition is complete. The birds get everything they need: protein, minerals, and methionine without a single trip to the feed store. The system runs itself, powered by roots and bugs, not by bags of grain. That leaves only one layer missing: the seasonal burst of energy that keeps the flock thriving through the hottest months. Mulberry trees pull double duty in the chicken yard. Their broad leaves throw deep shade, cutting summer heat and keeping birds cool when the thermometer climbs. Studies show that hens under mulberry canopies lay more eggs and suffer less heat stress thanks to a temperature drop of as much as 10 degrees beneath the branches. But the real bonus comes when the berries ripen. For about 3 months each year, the tree drops a steady rain of ripe, sweet fruit packed with natural sugars and energy right into the run. Chickens gobble up the fallen berries, turning sunlight and rainwater into extra calories with no extra work. This seasonal sugar rush fuels steady laying through the hottest weeks when appetite for dry feed drops off. The mulberry roll does not end with summer. When the leaves begin to fall, the rest of the perennial guild steps up. Tagasaste branches cut in late summer dry quickly in the open air. Once the leaves are crisp but still green, they are bundled and stored in a dry shed. Unlike grass hay, which loses much of its nutrition once dried, Tagasaste leaves retain up to 90% of their protein, minerals, and energy. This is backed by studies on similar high-protein forages like mulberry and alfalfa. Through the cold months, a handful of dried branches tossed into the coop becomes a feast. The hens strip every leaf, leaving only bare twigs behind. A single mature Tagasaste bush, coppiced twice a year, can yield enough green and dried feed to support a small flock through all seasons. The logistics are simple: 1 afternoon's harvest in late August, a week of air drying, and enough stored tree hay to bridge the gap until spring. No more scrambling for expensive winter feed or rationing grain. The perennial system closes the loop, freeing the homesteader from the old cycle of scarcity and dependence. Protein, minerals, energy, all delivered by roots, leaves, and sunlight, even when the snow flies. Egg cartons in the supermarket promise a golden yolk, but the color often comes from a bag, not a pasture. Since the mid-20th century, feed companies have relied on pigment additives, marigold extract for lutein and capsanthin from red peppers, to tint eggs deeper orange. These products, sold by companies like DSM, appear in glossy catalogs and technical bulletins, and offer farmers precise control over yolk color measured on the Roche scale. The result is an egg that looks farm fresh, even when the hens never saw a blade of grass. Marigold and capsanthin powders are now so common that most commercial eggs, even organic ones, owe their color to these feed dyes, not to beta-carotene or chlorophyll from green plants. Industry pamphlets from the 1970s onward boast about consumer appeal and market premiums for darker yolks, all engineered in the ration. The visual promise of nutrition is manufactured, masking the real loss. The nutrients that once came from a living forage diet have been replaced by a surface illusion. In the decades after World War II, American agriculture entered a new era. Policymakers, led by Norman Borlaug, championed hybrid grains, chemical fertilizers, and large-scale monocultures. The Green Revolution promised to feed a booming population, but it also changed the rules for small farms and backyard flocks. Reports from USDA in the 1950s and 1960s show a deliberate push toward corn and soy as the backbone of poultry diets. Driven by subsidies and the rise of pro-chemical inputs, perennial forages like Tagasaste and mulberry, once common in extension bulletins, faded from official recommendations. Feed companies and grain cartels gained new leverage as government policy favored crops that could be planted, harvested, and processed by machine. The economics became clear. Annual grains were easy to standardize, easy to patent, and easy to sell. Perennials were not. By the late 1960s, nearly every farm flock depended on bagged rations, and the knowledge of perennial fodder systems slipped out of mainstream practice. This industrial realignment would have lasting consequences, not just for the way chickens were fed, but for the nutrients that ended up in the eggs themselves. Lab results do not care about tradition or marketing. When scientists compared eggs from grain-fed hens to those raised on green forage and insects, the numbers flipped the script. A typical supermarket egg laid by a chicken eating mostly corn and soy shows an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of about 20:1. That is a recipe for inflammation, exactly what doctors warn against. But eggs from hens eating Tagasaste, Comfrey, mulberry, and black soldier fly larvae, the ratio drops close to 1:1, sometimes 4:1 depending on the season. That is the anti-inflammatory range found in wild-caught fish and pastured meats. The lab printout for vitamin K2, the MK4 form, tells the same story. Store-bought eggs averaged less than 10 micrograms per 100 grams of yolk. On-farm eggs from green-fed flocks routinely test at 50, 70, even 100 micrograms per 100 grams of yolk. That is several times higher. This is not a boutique claim. It is standard insurance and compliance results from real farms. Objections come fast. Is it safe? Bocking 14 Comfrey is a sterile hybrid bred to avoid the problems of wild Comfrey. Black soldier fly larvae are FDA approved for on-farm use. No synthetic residues, no hidden toxins, just the nutrients hens were built to process. The data is public, the benefits measurable. The only thing missing from the modern egg is the diet that made it powerful in the first place. Today, most eggs on store shelves still lack meaningful vitamin K2 and carry an inflammatory omega-6 profile. Yet a single tree in your backyard can shift that balance. As food costs soar and health crises mount, the real secret is not hidden in a bag, but growing in plain sight. Your next meal can change with what you plant. What would you choose to grow? Share your thoughts below.